talk to Gage.
And hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be talking about 3 more NSO games worth playing. So these are games you can play on your Nintendo Switch if you have the Nintendo Switch Online subscription service. But something that I want to mention is that I only want to talk about games that I personally have finished, because I don't want to come on here and make a video about like 3 games that like other people say is really good and I've never played myself, you know, and like finished myself, or at least I don't believe it is worth finishing. I only want to talk about the ones that I personally believe in. So with that out of the way, let's dive right into our first game, and that being Super Metroid. So this is a game I actually finished way back on the Wii U when that was a thing and it was on the Virtual Console. That's how I personally played it and I enjoyed it quite a bit. My biggest caveat right here at the start, before I talk about anything good about the game, is the controls are really bad. Going back to it is not easy at all because the controls are just whack in a lot of ways. The 2 things that annoy me the most going back to it are the L and R buttons being aiming up and down. Coming off of Metroid Dread and the Metroid 2 remake with the 360 aiming in those games, it's totally different and it's just not nearly as good. And the second thing that annoys me is how you have to constantly press the minus button on your controller to cycle through all of your items and tools that you can use in the game. That's also pretty cumbersome and just wastes time. It's just not snappy or quick and easy like, again, the newer games are like. So that's my biggest caveat up here at the front. But with that being said, I still think it is worth playing for the gameplay and everything else that's in this. You know, it's a Metroidvania. It basically made that genre, so there's a lot of backtracking, but a lot of times we look at that in like a negative connotation. I don't think it's really that bad here. It's really just, you know, you have to like really pay attention to your surroundings, get upgrades, and then go back to older areas with those new upgrades that you found, usually from beating a boss or finding it in the world in some way. So really good, and it's just the Metroid formula, not perfected, but still really good. And for the SNES, it's definitely one of the most iconic video games on the console. And in my opinion, it's also one of the best. There's not many things quite like it. And yes, the game also does look really, really nice. The pixel graphics have aged really good. And I think it's cool because a lot of indie games nowadays have pixel graphics. So going back to these old games, it kind of, you know, it doesn't feel super jarring to go back to certain ones. And Super Metroid is no different. It's actually holds up very well to this day in terms of its graphics. And I also want to quickly say that the little bits of story in this one are pretty cool too. The fact that it picks up right after Metroid 2 with the baby Metroid, and then, you know, Samus having to go back to the colony arc or whatever it was, and then Ridley's there stealing it. Really cool stuff. I like those little bits, and I think Metroid is really cool whenever it adds those things. So Super Metroid is my first pick of this list. And then the next game is one that I finally got to finish for myself, and some of you might know and remember that this is actually my favorite video game franchise of all time, Fire Emblem. This game is so fun. I played it back on the Wii U. I got the Virtual Console version of this as well. I got up to like that winter chapter where there's a lot of wyverns. I don't remember what it's called or exactly everything that's in it, but I made it that far and I never finished it. And finally, when they made the announcement that it was coming to the NSO service, I got so excited that I could finally replay the whole thing on the big screen and I could enjoy it fresh. And yes, as I said, the game is extremely fun. This is like an older era of Fire Emblem games. You know, it was on the handheld, so it's a little bit different. In some ways a little simplified, but really you're not gonna find that many games that are this deep and complex and just interesting to play, that like really, like activate all parts of your brain to like think about all these different things, quite like Fire Emblem does. So it holds up remarkably well to this day, and I highly recommend playing it. And if you do, if it's your first time, maybe I couldn't fault you for rewinding here and there if you lose a character that you really like. But if you're like me and you've played, you know, Three Houses and N-Gage and the games on 3DS, then try to play it without using save states or the rewind, as I think it'll make your experience much, much better. Really, when it comes to this game and really all the games that were on GBA that are now on Switch, I recommend playing them on the Switch because playing them on the TV is just so much nicer than playing it on that tiny, tiny screen. So this is, in my opinion, the best way to play Fire Emblem, but that's just what I think. I also want to say the graphics and pixel animations are also extremely good. A lot of people remember these GBA Fire Emblem games for their very pretty pixel graphics and animations, but I must say that the story is, it's entertaining, it's interesting to follow, but I will say that the first half, with some of the mysterious aspects going on in it, I find to be more interesting and better than the second half of the story, which just became a little more generic, a little less going on. So it's not a story that's gonna blow you out of the water and get a bunch of awards. It's not gonna be anything like that, but I definitely thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think that the characters, there's a few standouts, and Hector is one of them. He is actually amazing. I really like him. And my favorite moments of the story are whenever Hector and Eliwood are interacting. Those are the best moments in the game. But yeah, Fire Emblem, an excellent game to play, and if you have the expansion pass, I highly recommend you give it a shot, especially if you like RPGs and you like the other Fire Emblem games. So, this is the big one. For the final game, we're gonna be talking about Earthbound. Now, I played this because my little brother Gabriel and my fellow all four co-hosts recommended I play it. So I figured it only made sense that we bring Gabriel in to help me fully explain this game and explain to all of you why this is such a masterpiece. So with that being said, Gabriel, welcome to the video.
Hey.
Let me bring, hold on, yeah, I can go here. Let me bring the mic over. Okay, so hopefully you all can hear us. We are gonna first talk about the gameplay. We're gonna talk about the gameplay of Earthbound. So, I think it's good.
I think it's like some of the most fun
Yeah.
in a JRPG.
Yeah. It's a turn-based RPG, for those of you who don't know. It's really wacky and weird. The thing with the turn-based combat is early on, it's not going to really impress you very much. It's kind of simple and, you know, not a whole lot going on.
Like it's just like all the enemies you're fighting and like a weird looking background, and then all your characters' health and PP.
Right.
Or MP, honestly.
Yeah, and Ness doesn't learn that many skills early on.
Yeah, this may kind of surprise, but if you play Super Smash Bros., PK Fire, PK Thunder, and Psy Magnet, he never learns those in Earthbound.
Yeah, those are other characters that learn those moves, so that was interesting. They need to redo Ness and Smash, but yeah, getting back to the gameplay, early on, especially, it is very, you know, pretty simple. You know, it's mainly just like attacking, and then once you get Paula, it gets much better.
Yeah, I kept saying that to him. I was like, once you get Paula, the game just goes up.
It just goes up. It does, because Paula has a lot of different skills. And then from there, the gameplay just gets better and better. You know, you add on Jeff, and Jeff uses items, and then Pooh, which Pooh might be my favorite character as far as how he plays, like his play style.
Yeah, he's like he has like a mix of both.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. So the gameplay does pick up quite a bit, but I want to talk about the weird enemies. Like, you will literally fight sentient garbage cans with, what is it, the something moldy man?
Oh yeah, the moldy man, or the territorial oak tree.
The territorial oak tree. You'll fight
Master Belch,
which is a pile of vomit. You'll fight crows.
The spiteful crow.
Yeah, you'll fight
new age retro hippies.
Yeah, you fight hippies. So like the enemies in this game are so weird, and it only adds to the charm of the game. When you look at it, that just kind of further builds the charm. And that's why all of these things are not even the main reason why Earthbound is so special.
But wait. There's some on the script I want to add. You didn't add the music.
The music is
like this ain't on the script, but I don't care. That we have to say before you start going the big thing is that the music is so good.
Yeah.
The game would not be the same without that music.
Yeah, and for those of you who've played Smash Bros, the music in Smash representing Earthbound is like a tragedy. Like, they have not included nearly enough tracks, and every single one is a remix. So sad. Like, there's so many tracks in Earthbound that are actually like shockingly good, and they just didn't include in Smash.
The only reason I could see them not adding it is because it could be copyright.
There's definitely a few like that, but yeah, music is definitely really good. I'm glad that you brought that up. But what I was going to bring up is the fact that really all of these things that we talked about on like a surface level, like, oh, music's good, oh, gameplay, kind of whatever, and then it gets good. You kind of have to set that aside because Earthbound is special for an entirely unique reason. And I think it has to do with everything just all together, but it's also just the charm. It's just the feelings that Earthbound gives you when you play it. And now look, early on, I literally doubted it. Like, people were telling me, oh, you gotta play Earthbound, you know, like both Gavin, who's also another member of the All 4 podcast, and Gabriel were telling me, dude, you gotta play Earthbound, like, it's so good. And I was like, come on. Like, I'd heard of that so many times, and I doubted it, and I doubted it was really gonna be that good. And then I played it, and I was like, yeah, like, I don't know, like, I don't, you know, it's whatever. And then I finished it, and by the end of the game, something happened. Something just clicked. And it just really resonated with me. And I feel like that's what happens with most people when they play Earthbound.
It's like every Dark Souls story.
Yeah, you give up and come back. Because I've started Earthbound a few times, but yeah, I finally finished it on NSO, and yeah, the game was amazing. And also said, let me also throw this out there real quick before I throw it over to you, Gabe. I want to see what you say, but let me also say, this game is surprisingly forgiving. Like, not only do you not have to use rewind, but you also don't have to use save states, because the save system in this game is actually shockingly good. You can save your game, and then you go die after you level up, and you maintain your experience, or you at least maintain your level, but I assume your experience as well. And it's basically like the game has a built-in checkpoint system without it actually being a checkpoint system. So let that be known. That would have helped me play the game much sooner, because it's actually really forgiving. Like, if you die, you basically just have to go back to the last place that you saved, which most of the time ain't that bad. You maintain your experience, so you just are stronger when you go through it the second time. Play it. You know, you should. But yeah, so the charm and everything with the game like that is so good, right, Gabe? Like, it's just that good.
Like, literally, the game actually, like, for if you're like younger and you play it, you're like, oh, this is just like Master Belch is disgusting. It gross 90s gross out humor is what I was trying to go for, and that was just its time it came out. But when I played it, and I'm pretty sure when you play it too, Gage, there was something under there that it hit me so hard, it got me to cry at the end.
Yeah. Because, like, at the end, now we can't spoil it. I wish we could talk about it. We're not going to spoil it, but there's some things in the end that really just, it's so crazy that it even happened. It feels like the kind of thing that just JRPGs just don't do. And it was pretty sick. It was actually really, really cool. And you might want to look up a guide how to beat the final boss, I will say that. But other than that, the final boss itself is just shocking.
And also, the song that plays for the first phase of it.
Pretty rad. But yeah, really everything that we're saying, it's hard to explain. I think we're not doing it justice putting it into words, because I think it's just difficult to put into words. But what we're trying to convey is that this is just a special work of art that deserves to be experienced. It's not so much about playing it and like, oh, you know, I'm gonna play, it's the most fun game I've ever played. It's really not like that. That's not what I would sell Earthbound as, because there are other JRPGs that I think are more fun, like Persona. You know, we've talked about Persona and Shin Megami Tensei on this channel because I recently experienced those games, and I think those games are more fun, but there's something about Earthbound that is worth experiencing. It's more so an experience versus, oh, I'm gonna play it to just have fun, or like, you know, it's so weird and so like hard to explain. But I definitely think this is the game that deserves to be played by everybody in this list, and including the last list. This is the one I would say, like, you should play this. If you have not played it before, you absolutely should play Earthbound. It is worth your time, worth experiencing. Even if you jump into it and you feel like, it's whatever, you know, not really vibing, just try to stick with it. Like, I promise you, by the end of the game, it happened to me too. I was like, yeah, you know, it's good, it's all right. But then like, I was just convinced. Like when I heard people talk about the game, how special it was, it finally by the end of it, just all culminated and made sense to me. What do you got, Gabe?
And I just want to add, like, I felt the same way when I started it. It was after my Undertale hype. Undertale is still my favorite game of all time, but Earthbound is also one of my favorite games of all time. It's in my top 10 definitely. But after beating it, I was like, there is like no other JRPG like this game. Literally, you will never play the same game like this, and I think it's because of Shigesato Itoi, the creator of Earthbound. Like, he really like knew how to make this game unique. And if you didn't know, he did every single line of dialogue himself
in the game, and it shows. There's also a lot of like funny NPCs that say just like goofy and weird things.
Come on, what's the best example?
I think of the monkey that was like, oh, she's my type, and then he like leaves. It's like the bubble monkey.
I thought of after you beat the Kraken boss, the captain of the boat's like, you didn't see me help, I threw my slippers at the beast.
I threw my slippers at the beast. Yeah, so the game just is oozing charm. So I think we're gonna digress for now, but please play Earthbound. Do yourself a favor. The game is actually as good as people say, but you're not going to think that maybe when you first start playing it. You're like, it's just kind of whatever, but just let it marinate, let it simmer, and just experience it. It's definitely a must play on the Super Nintendo, and one of the best Super Nintendo games of all time. So yeah, thank you, Gabe, for being on the show.
Hey, and another thing, one more thing.
Final remarks.
Yeah, this is something I have to say. If you have played Undertale or like Amori, like those games, you probably really enjoyed those if you played them. Play Earthbound, because it's the game that started those games.
Yeah, inspired.
And that it isn't just like, oh, Mori's just that game but better. It's like Earthbound, like they all do their own things differently, and it's really like, it's a game to play before you die. It's one of those games.
It is. It's definitely something that's worth experiencing. I totally agree. It brings up a whole idea of like almost like it's abstract art in a way, because it feels like it's the kind of thing that you don't understand it entirely, but it just like resonates with you at the same time. So, but yeah, that is the list. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I try to have a bit more variety this time, and hopefully you all are enjoying these videos. This is the second one that we've done. If you want to hear more NSO games that you can play literally right now, if you have a Nintendo Switch Online, then go check out the previous video. But with that being said, I thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you didn't, thank you for watching this long, and don't forget to engage that subscribe button down below. And with all that being said, I will see you all in the next video. God bless.
I wish I knew.